Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin Stenshall. I'm the investor relations contact here in Aker BioMarine. It is with great pleasure that we are today announcing the launch of a new business segment with a broad application potential. The two presenters in this investor presentation are our CEO, Johansen, and our R&D director, Andreas Storsve, who is a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, a Fulbright scholar at Harvard, and also leading in this field. So without further ado, I hand the word over to our CEO.
Thank you, Martin. This is a big day for us. It's a project that we've been working on for 6 years, and we're proud to be able to tell the world what we've been working on and what we've been able to achieve through those 6 years today. I'm rating this as the biggest thing in Aker BioMarine since the company was established in 2006, 2007. So the launch of LYSOVETA today, it's really important for our company and our future. The LYSOVETA product is based on breakthrough science and discovery that was published in Nature in 2014. And I have Andreas here that will now start to take us through what that science was about.
Okay, thank you, Mats. Well, so basically, our brains, they change throughout our entire lifespan. So from very young age, from conception all the way until death, we have large in our brain structurally and functionally. Omega-3 fatty acids are extremely concentrated in the brain relative to other tissues, for especially DHA and EPA. And what we see is that there is now a mechanism that was identified in 2014 by which these fatty acids can enter the brain. And so what is important? This is important because these fatty acids are extremely important for the changes that occur throughout life, such as, for example, the establishment of new connection points in the brain, what we call synaptogenesis, and also for neurogenesis, that's the birth of new neurons, but also to support the structure of the brain throughout the entire life. So there's been a mystery in science for a long time how these fatty acids that are so important, these omega-3s, actually enter the brain. So in 2014, this breakthrough was published in the journal Nature, showing that the primary carrier molecule of EPA, DHA, and other omega-3 fatty acids into the brain is by connecting these fatty acids to LPC, so lysophosphatidylcholine. And this lysophosphatidylcholine can attach to a specific transport protein in the blood barrier. So that is the discovery that DHA, EPA is carried into the brain in LPC form via a very specific transporter called MFSB2A.
So basically, since 2014, our scientists went down to Singapore, where these scientists discovered this LPC transporter. We went down there because we understood we had the potential in there. And since then, we've been working on process and product development, or how to make this very important LPC molecule from krill. We've been doing our own research on the mechanisms and effects of that in brain and other organs. And because we are a pioneer in this space, we have also developed a strong IP portfolio that protects that discovery and those innovations that we've been doing the last 6 years. And now we've been building up a commercialization strategy that we're launching out today. That starts with the launch of LYSOVETA.
Yeah, and to further give some comments on the mechanism itself. The primary mechanism by which DHA and other omega-3 fatty acids enter the brain is through the MFSB2A transporter. The blood-brain barrier, of course, is designed in order to keep pathogens and toxins out of the brain, but it's also very selective in that it can transport molecules it needs into the brain. So in the case of omega-3 fatty acids such as DHA and EPA, this is achieved in a very specific way. So basically, the DHA and EPA is attached in LPC form, meaning that it can enter the brain via attaching to a transporter called MFSD2A, binding to this transporter, and then being carried across the blood-brain barrier. And this is a mechanism that is now well described in the literature. It's well known. And we know that, for example, if you knock out this transporter molecule, there will be severe consequences in terms of mental and brain structural development. So we are talking severe cognitive retardation as well as deficits in neurostructural development. So we know this both from human genetic studies, but also from animal knockout studies. We know that this transporter is necessary for normal brain development. We can also, interestingly, find this transporter in other organs. So, for example, not only the brain is supplied with EPA, DHA, and other omega-3 fatty acids through this particular mechanism, also the eye has been identified as a site for this transporter, meaning that DHA enter the retina across the blood-retinal barrier only when it's carried as an LPC molecule. And then again, that is using the same transporter as the brain. We also see this transporter in many other tissues, and this makes this particular product extremely promising in terms of addressing a wide range of potential health needs of the future. So what happens if we try to supplement with LPC, EPA, DHA? So a central sort of question here is, of course, EPA and omega-3 fatty acids are transported by this mechanism, but what happens if we supplement over time with EPA and DHA bound to lysophosphatidyl-choline? So will that generate an actual improvement? So preclinical studies have demonstrated this quite convincingly. So what we see is that if we give LPC DHA versus a free fatty acid, so free DHA, over a period of 30 days, the amount of DHA that results in brain tissue following the supplementation is more than twice the amount if we give DHA in LPC form versus if you give DHA in free form. This has also, interestingly, wide implications for memory tests, preclinical memory tests, and also in terms of plasticity markers in the brain, such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a growth factor in the brain, which is important for what we call plasticity. That means making new brain connections that will reinforce the memories that you're making. So these are important, both fundamental demonstration of the uptake of LPC, EPA, and DHA in the brain, but also the functional consequences of this. So not only does it lead to changes that you would associate with plasticity and brain changes, you also have a functional effect in terms of the memory in preclinical research. We also see a similar effect in the eye, by which both EPA and DHA are incorporated extremely rapidly and efficiently if you give supplementation orally in LPC form versus if you give it in other carrier forms such as TG and free fatty acids.
Okay, so basically Andreas have described this big discovery of this LPC transport molecule that brings these important EPA and DHA molecules into the brain and also other organs. So why is this interesting for Aker BioMarine? So basically, if you look at this slide to the left, this molecule here you find by nature in krill. What you see here to the right of that is the LPC molecule, what that needs to look like. So what you can see from the nature side, we have a molecule which is very similar to the LPC molecule described in this science that Andreas is referring to. So that means that we have a unique starting point with a molecule that can quite easily be modified to become that very important LPC molecule. And actually, there's no easier way out there to make this LPC molecule than to start with that krill molecule. And as you can see illustrated on the right side, the consequence of that is that the cost of manufacturing LPC from krill is just a fraction of the other known ways to make a molecule like that. And I think until the launch of LYSOVETA today, there has only been small quantities of LPC available for scientists at very high cost, so thousands of dollars per gram. Now we have developed a process that is scaled up, that is affordable, and that is already providing large quantities of these type of products. So we have a very unique starting point. We have a cost advantage in processing this over all other known ways of making that LPC molecule. And because we are a pioneer in this space, we have been able to get a patent estate of strong IP protecting our innovation here, both how you make the molecule, LPC molecule, and also the composition of it, and actually how you can use it in different type of applications. So we have already 2 granted patents, 18 pending patent applications specifically on LPC, and then we have more than 45 granted patents that cover specifically krill-related LPC. So the combination of a great starting point, attractive cost position, and this IP estate gives the opportunity for Aker BioMarine to become the, I would say, leader or the server or supplier of all business coming out of this very important discovery. So for Aker BioMarine, that means that we are going to commercialize in our existing models, meaning we're going to build now a third leg next to Superba and QRILL, a LYSOVETA ingredient business, where we're going to sell this ingredient into the dietary supplement space within brain and eye. Then in the other spaces like infant formula, that you give to babies within pharmaceuticals and within functional and medical food, we're going to team up in partnership with the leading experts in these type of areas. And they will do different type of partnership deals that will typically have elements of equity, milestone payments, IP licensing revenues, and a supply agreement behind. So our ambition here is based on the unique starting point we have, the IP portfolio and the know-how that we have built, that we will serve this whole market in these 2 different models. Then, what does this market look like? And from a business perspective, what's the impact for Aker BioMarine? I think what is important to say first that we have guided the investors of a $200 million EBITDA objective in 2024. And what we have also said earlier, that this innovation pipeline we have is on top of that. So the opportunities arising now from LYSOVETA, the financial impact of that comes on top of the $200 million EBITDA objective that we have set for 2024. We're entering into a space now with very strong underlying development. So the brain health supplement sales in the US is growing about 20% year over year. We see that depression alone stands for 12% of healthy lives lost in people's lives, so it's important for people. 35% of adults above 60, they are concerned about losing their memories. And we see a 23% increase in eye disorders over the last 10 years, driven by all those screens that we're looking at the whole day. So there's some strong underlying trends that makes this eye and brain segment very interesting. So then what's the opportunity, the financial opportunity for Aker BioMarine with LYSOVETA? What we have illustrated here is that with Superba krill oil, that in 2019 was $97 million of revenue, we have built that business out of the $4.6 billion omega-3 global supplement market. So $100 million in the addressable market of $4.6 billion. If we now look at the supplement market, we're going to address now with this LPC LYSOVETA product into the brain and eye supplement market. That market is twice the size of the omega-3 market, where we have built $100 million business. So that can put in context of how big this can become in the ingredient supplement part of it. Then the infant formula space, where this DHA is a very important factor, and where everybody is looking for those innovations for how they can differentiate and create a better product for these babies. That market is 10 times bigger than the current omega-3 market that we are currently with our Superba krill oil. And if you look at the pharmaceutical market for neurological application, that's 20 times bigger than the current omega-3 market we're addressing. And the eye pharmaceutical market, it's about 5 times bigger. So we here are entering into a much larger market that we've been addressing historically with our other products, with a very unique position that is very, very hard for others to copy and follow. Now, this goes in line with our innovation strategy. For those of you that have seen our investor presentation earlier, you have seen how we are rating our kind of innovations in this matrix of new technology, new products, and business models for working in a different way to capture bigger value. In our previous presentation, you saw this square here with confidential. So that was LYSOVETA, which is an innovation both on the technology side with a new product, but also on the business model side, where we're now also seeking these type of pharma partnership with equity, royalty, revenues, and so on. And this type of innovation also drives the general approach of pushing our margins higher and higher by our innovation. So as you can see here, the margin coming from this is the supplement variant of LYSOVETA you see illustrated here, comes with a higher margin than what we have even in the highest margin business of Superba today. So this is, I mean, it's an important innovation in terms of the market potential, but it's also a big contributor to continue to push the gross margins of Aker BioMarine upwards. So what's going to happen now? So first of all, we are going to fast track commercial supplement products. We have started the process for regulatory approval and expect to have regulatory approval and products on the shelf in the end of 2022. Then we are now starting to reach out to infant formula and pharmaceutical partners in the brain, eye, and infant formula area to establish those partnerships, provide our IP estate, which is important for them to protect their investment and development, and with supply agreements and partnerships. So that is starting now with the launch of LYSOVETA today, and we will actively reaching out to those two segments. Then number 3, which is very important, given the position we have of our starting material, our production cost, and the IP portfolio, we are also going to support the scientific community. So today, scientists around the world from universities that want to study the effects of LPC, they will have to acquire this synthetically produced LPC that costs thousands of dollars per gram. We have already scaled up our production process, and we will be offering universities and research organizations products for free to continue to build on this emerging science that is started in 2014. It's worth mentioning that since that Nature paper in 2014, there's 70 research papers that come out on the same topic. So it's a kind of big space already, but we want to facilitate that to continue to grow. At the end here, I also would like to just emphasize that this is in line with our sustainability strategy. We have selected 4 sustainability goals, good health and well-being, which this comes under. And under that United Nations sustainability goal, there is a goal called promote mental health and well-being for people. So mental health is a priority for United Nations under the sustainability goals. And this product aligns perfectly with the strategy we have of making sure that all the products that we offer are contributing to the challenges of society and at the same time taking good care of planet when we are producing them. So I'd like to end here with Andreas just kind of showing what this actually look like when you look really close.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful, what can I say, drawing graphic illustration of the mechanism. So this shows in the orange the LPC DHA EPA molecule attaching to the lysolipid binding site in the MFSD2A transporter and being transported across the outer membrane into the inner leaflet of the endothelial cell of the blood-brain barrier, and then showing the lyso LPC EPA DHA inside the inner leaflet, from which it will continue its travel all the way across the blood-brain barrier and into the brain. And we also have some scientific drawings of this on our new website, which can be interesting to view. This is a really well-specified mechanism, and it's a well-known mechanism now. And it's great that we are able to take advantage of the mechanism using unique raw material.
So I suggest you take a look at LYSOVETA.com, which is a website for this product that went, and this business that went live this morning. When you enter that website, you have two choices if you're industry or if you're a scientist. If you're working in the industry, you'll come to kind of that part of the website. If you're a scientist, you'll actually come to the #1 information source related to this kind of breakthrough discovery from 2014. So there's no other place you can go to find the full overview of all the paper, all the science, everything connected to this type of science. And we're going to keep that website updated with all the new science that's emerging out of this space, so that we will become the #1 hub for information and science related to this very important LPC discovery and product.